Vel heard the call of the bell, coming from a chapel she was all too familiar with. She rushed up the village hill to the chapel with her companions, finding exactly what her heart had feared. The call of madness had come. The only answer to such a call for her was to bathe it in everlasting frost. Summoning her will, Vel encased herself in a thick sheet of ice and unleashed a deep freezing torrent of cold. The mad villagers around her fell, one by one, succumbing to the ice now encasing their lifeless bodies. What few remained were quickly dispatched by her arsenal of frozen spells, leaving the chapel a lifeless frozen horror. Ironic, isn't it, that we fight the chaos of this world with chaos of our own, she said to her companions. The others in their group simply nodded back in acknowledgement. Were they just focused on the task at hand? Or did they fear her elemental power like all the others? Best not overthink it. We'll have to clear the village house by house. I can smell the demonic brimstone from here, she said. A moment later, the coordinated group annihilated the demon infestation in the first house, then the next, and the next, until finally the entire village was purged of evil, with the rime from the bell's frost spells coating nearly every surface. The chapel bell tolls once again. The root of this infestation must be at the chapel, she said. How they had missed it the first time? Shielding herself in ice once again, Vel summoned all her power. A short but decisive battle with 3 succubi ensued. Vel called upon her best spells, Blizzard, Frozen Orb, and Frostbolt, to dispatch her foes. These demons were tough, and shrugged off even her most powerful attacks. But with the combined might of her companions, they quickly fell, one by one. As the final succubi died, her barbarian companion said, "Who was that ringing the bell? All the demons here are slain. Even these 3 succubi were not inside when we approached." Vel looked around for perhaps a yet still hidden demon in the chapel, but it was empty, save fire and frost. "Only the elements know," she said. "Our task here is done."
Finally, welcome back. I hope you had a great winter break from Diablo 4. I'm echohack, and this is the Sorceress class preview. With open beta coming up March 17th, now is a good time to go and check out all the class previews on my channel here. There will be new updated versions for each class after the open beta. Covering each class as the game evolves is a major goal of mine. So over the break, I was hard at work building up some of the behind the scenes things that powers these videos. My hope here is that these videos can serve as a way to inform you about the game and also serve as an archive for the game over time. I think it'll be pretty interesting to, in a few years, look back at how the game was and how we thought about the game, even in the early beta stages. Also, it'll be great to finally be able to record our own B-roll for the game, because the quality in Blizzard's press-provided B-roll that we currently have access to is pretty bad, and it leaves a lot to be desired. I have a brand new capture method that lets me grab 4K 60 quality content at about 25 times the quality you might be used to. Check out how clean the artifacting here is around some of the torches, fire, and other effects in this Diablo 2 Resurrected clip. Anyway, enough about that. Let's jump into the Sorceress preview. The Sorcerer class is a master of magic and annihilates their enemies. They use powerful spells imbued with raw elemental power to take command of the battlefield and to crush any that challenge them. This overview covers their strengths and weaknesses, skills, passives, legendaries, and much more. So, let's teleport in and learn why the Sorcerer can wield the pinnacle of magic. The Sorcerer has ultimate control over the raw elemental magics to tear apart enemies. They let loose powerful torrents of destructive energy to snare and control the battle at any point. Strong defensive skills make them a deceptively hard target to kill. Further knowledge with Enchantment Slots bring a deeper diversity to their loadout of skills to leave nothing but destruction in their wake. The Sorcerer is fun to play, with well-developed skills based around the elements, cold, lightning, and fire. They also have amazing depth with seemingly endless skill interactions. Their skills are powered by mana, a resource that generates automatically while in battle. First, let's take a look at the strengths. Screen-wide damage. The Sorcerer's ability to dish out damage through AoE, area of effect, skills is unmatched with their core and mastery skills. Crowd control for days. The CC capability of the Sorcerer to lock down enemies makes for a destructive combo with legendary powers that grant additional damage. Great movement. Between evade, teleport, and legendary powers, the traditionally slow Sorcerer is anything but when getting out of danger. Powerful defensive skills. While not designed to be as durable as the Barbarian, skills like Ice Armor, Flame Shield, Teleport, and others can make the Sorcerer a deceptively hard target to kill. DPS on the move. With skills like Hydra, Blizzard, and Firewall, the Sorcerer can lead enemies to their death, while gathering more mobs at the same time for efficient farming. Weaknesses. Mana dependency. Mana is a precious resource that needs to be used wisely for maximum effect during combat. Close combat. While sorcerers can withstand melee attacks with defensive skills for a short duration, prolonged exposure is not recommended, as the class is simply not built for it. Crowd control dependent buffs. Picking too many CC effects and damage multipliers can leave you with a hard time on CC immune champions and bosses. All me and no team. There's only a few options the Sorcerer has to buff the party, so they're currently best utilized as a solo class or as a primary damage dealing class in a party. Now let's take a look at Sorcerer's equipment. The Sorcerer can use staves, a two-handed weapon which gives a different implicit modifier and stats when compared to using the one-handed dagger or wand plus a focus. The trade-off between these depends how many legendary powers you require for your build. Using a staff may give you the implicit you require, but you lose out on that extra legendary power from the focus. Skill points are unlocked by level ups and the renown system. As you spend more points, you unlock more and more categories of skills. Each active skill can be leveled up to 5 times or more with items, increasing their power, usually plus 10% of their base value, or reducing their cooldown by about 5% with each additional rank. After unlocking a skill, you can enhance it with another point and then choose one out of 2 upgrades to specialize it further. In addition, there are passives found all over the tree, attached as additional optional choices to certain skill clusters. They grant small bonuses to damage, defense, or utility under certain conditions and can help round out your build by shifting it further into the direction that you want to take. All passives have 3 ranks and usually scale linearly with each rank. All right, let's talk about the basic skills. Sorcerer's basic skills are weak in comparison with their other skills and are mostly used to apply debuffs like Vulnerable with Frostbolt or to reset cooldowns with things like Arc Lash. As you continue to level, you'll want to find ways to increase your resource generation to avoid using basic skills if at all possible. Still, they can be useful to finish off small enemies or to add a little extra damage against an elite or a boss while you prepare one of your stronger mana spending attacks. Frostbolt. Throw a bolt of frost at an enemy, dealing 35% damage and chilling them for 15%. Lucky hit, 31%. Enhancement. Frostbolt has a 15% chance to explode on chilled targets, hitting surrounding enemies. Chance increased to 100% against frozen targets. Upgrades. Glinting. Frostbolt generates 4 mana when hitting chilled or frozen enemies. Flickering. Frostbolt makes frozen enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. Its enchantment slot effect. Lucky hit. Your direct damage has up to a 100% chance to chill for 30%. Firebolt. Hurl a flaming bolt, dealing 10% damage and burning for 40% over 8 seconds. Its lucky hit chance is 20%. Enhancement. Firebolt pierces burning enemies. Its upgrades. Glinting. Critical strikes with Firebolt increase the burning damage the target takes by times 20% for 4 seconds. Flickering. Firebolt generates 2 mana when hitting a burning enemy. Its enchantment slot effect. Lucky hit. Your direct damage has up to a 100% chance to burn enemies for 23.40% over 8 seconds. Arc Lash. Unleash arcing lightning that shocks enemies in front of you for 42%. Every 10 times Arc Lash swipes, it stuns all enemies hit for 2 seconds. Its lucky hit chance is 31%. Enhancement. If Arc Lash's initial swipe critically strikes, it swipes an additional time. Upgrades. Glinting. Hitting a stunned enemy with Arc Lash reduces your cooldowns by 0.25 seconds. Flickering. Gain 6% movement speed for 5 seconds per enemy hit with Arc Lash, up to 18%. Its enchantment slot effect. When you're hit, there's a 20% chance the attacker is stunned for 1 second. Next, let's get into our core skills. Core skills are the most iconic sorcerer skills used in your build, and you can count on always having one on your action bar. They hunger for all of your resources, so be careful not to get mana starved with them. On the upside, they do hit more targets and do significantly more damage than basic skills. Core skills can be amplified by multiple legendary effects, and they synergize well with your ultimate abilities. Spark. Launch a bolt of lightning that shocks an enemy for 4 times, dealing 8% damage each hit. Its lucky hit chance is 9%. Enhancement. Each time Spark hits, it has a 20% chance to hit up to 3 additional enemies, dealing 5% damage. If there are no other enemies to hit, Spark instead deals 20%. Enhancement. Each time Spark hits, it has a 20% chance to hit up to 3 additional enemies, dealing 5% damage. If there are no other enemies to hit, Spark instead deals 20% additional damage. Upgrades. Glinting. Spark grants 2% increased critical strike chance per cast for 3 seconds, up to 10%. Flickering. Each time Spark hits an enemy, it has a 3% chance to spawn a crackling energy. Enchantment Slot. Killing an enemy has a 10% chance to form a crackling energy. Frozen Orb. Unleash an orb that chills for 34% and expels piercing shards, dealing a total of 32% damage. Upon expiration, Frozen Orb explodes, dealing 29% damage and chilling enemies for 9%. Its lucky hit chance is 20%. Enchantment. When cast above 50 mana, Frozen Orb's explosion damage is increased by times 30%. Upgrades. Greater. Frozen Orb's explosion has a 25% chance to make all enemies hit vulnerable for 2 seconds. Destructive. Frozen Orb's explosion restores 5 mana when hitting a frozen enemy. Its enchantment slot effect is whenever you cast a non-basic skill, you have a 20% chance to launch a frozen orb at a nearby enemy. Fireball. Hurl an exploding ball of fire, dealing 60% damage to surrounding enemies. Its lucky hit chance is 34%. Enhancement. Fireball costs 10 less mana. Upgrades. Greater. When you cast Fireball while healthy, it has a 50% increased radius and deals times 20% increased critical strike damage. Destructive. Fireball deals times 20% increased damage to the first enemy hit by its explosion. Its enchantment slot effect. When you kill an enemy, they explode in a fireball for 50% of its damage. Incinerate. Channel a beam of fire, burning enemies for 36%. Damage increases by 18% per second, up to 71%. Its lucky hit chance is 41%. Enhancement. While channeling Incinerate, you take 30% less damage from close enemies. Its upgrades. Greater. Incinerate now starts at full power, but its channeling cost is increased by 80%. Destructive. While channeling Incinerate, you burn nearby enemies for 15% of the damage per second. Its enchantment slot effect. Lucky hit. Direct damage has up to an 8% chance to spawn a rotating Incinerate beam. Charged bolts. Release 5 bolts of lightning that course along the ground in an erratic pattern, dealing 15% damage each. Its lucky hit chance is 25%. Enhancement. Charged bolts gain an extra projectile. Upgrades. Greater. Charged bolts deal times 25% increased damage to stunned enemies. Upgrades. Greater. Charged bolts deal times 25% increased damage to stunned enemies. Destructive. Hitting an enemy at least 5 times with charged bolts in any single cast reduces their damage dealt by 20% for 3 seconds. Its enchantment slot effect. When you're hit, there's a 40% chance to release 5 charged bolts. Chain lightning. Unleash a stream of lightning that deals 42% damage and chains between nearby enemies and you up to 4 times, prioritizing enemies. Its lucky hit chance is 25%. Enhancement. Chain lightning bounces to 1 additional enemy. Upgrades. Greater. Chain lightning deals times 5% increased damage per enemy hit. Destructive. When chain lightning critically strikes, it has a 25% chance to spawn a crackling energy. Enchantment slot effect. Chain lightning forms automatically after spending 100 mana. Ice shards. Launch 5 shards that deal 25% damage each. Deals times 25% increased damage to frozen enemies. Lucky hit chance 25%. Enhancement. Ice shards have a 15% chance to ricochet to another enemy. Upgrades. Greater. While you have a barrier active, ice shards treat enemies as if they were frozen. Destructive. Hitting an enemy with 5 ice shards in a single cast makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. Its enchantment slot effect. Ice shards automatically conjure and fly towards frozen enemies. Potent warding. Your non-physical damage and resistances are increased by 2%. Devastation. Deal times 7.5% increased damage to healthy enemies. Elemental. Your damage increases over time, up to a maximum of times 8% after 3 seconds. Casting a skill resets this effect. Now let's talk about defensive skills. Defensive skills significantly boost the sorcerer's defensive capabilities by either giving you a shield, or by crowd controlling enemies, or by letting you get out of harm's way. Of particular importance are effects that give you unstoppable or allow you to teleport away from enemies. Not only because these effects will keep you alive, but because they also allow you to use these abilities offensively as well as defensively. Flame Shield. Engulf yourself in flames for 2 seconds, burning nearby enemies for 7% per second. While Flame Shield is active, you are immune. Cooldown is 19.6 seconds, and lucky hit chance is 51%. Enhancement. Flame Shield grants 25% movement speed while active. Upgrades. Shimmering. Flame Shield makes enemies vulnerable for 4 seconds. Mystical. Enemies continue burning for 3 additional seconds after being hit by Flame Shield. Its enchantment slot effect. Flame Shield automatically activates when you take fatal damage. It takes 120 seconds to recharge. Teleport. Transform into lightning, becoming unstoppable and surging to the target location, dealing 25% damage around you upon arrival. Its cooldown is 10.8 seconds, and its lucky hit chance is 41%. Enhancement. After teleporting, take 30% less damage for 5 seconds. Upgrades. Shimmering. Teleport's cooldown is decreased by 0.5 seconds per enemy hit, up to 3 seconds. Mystical. For 4 seconds after teleporting, crackling energy deals times 40% more damage. Its enchantment slot effect. Evade is replaced with teleport on a 17-second cooldown. Ice Armor. A barrier of ice forms around you for 6 seconds, absorbing 30% of your base life and damage. While Ice Armor is active, 10% of your cold damage dealt is added to its barrier. Its cooldown is 19.6 seconds. Enhancement. While Ice Armor is active, your mana regeneration is increased by 25%. Upgrades. Shimmering. Enemies that hit you while Ice Armor is active have a 15% chance to be frozen for 3 seconds. Mystical. While Ice Armor's barrier is at or above its original amount, you deal times 30% increased damage. Enchantment slot. Upon getting hit, you have a 5% chance to apply Ice Armor. Frost Nova. Unleash a torrent of frost, freezing enemies around you for 2 seconds. Cooldown is 14.7 seconds. Enhancement. Frost Nova's radius is increased by 25%. Its upgrades. Shimmering. Frost Nova generates 4 mana per enemy hit. Mystical. Frost Nova's freeze duration is increased by 20% when hitting 3 or more enemies. Enchantment slot. Lucky hit. Critical strikes have up to a 30% chance to make your active conjuration skills unleash a Frost Nova. Glass Cannon. You deal 6% increased damage, but take times 3% more damage. Elemental. Elemental critical strikes reduce cooldown of your defensive skills by 3%. This effect cannot occur more than once every 10 seconds. Conjuration Skills. Now, Conjuration Skills create persistent effects on the battlefield, allowing you to strategically position yourself in a variety of situations. These effects are useful because they can deal extra damage while you're busy casting your other skills. Thus, these skills come with relatively longer cooldowns attached to them. Make sure to keep these effects up to maximize your damage. Ice Blades. Conjure Ice Blades for 6.0 seconds that rapidly slashes enemies for 31% damage and has a 20% chance to make them vulnerable for 2 seconds. Its cooldown is 11.8 seconds and lucky hit is 72%. Enhancement. Ice Blades have a 10% increased chance to make enemies vulnerable. Upgrades. Summoned. Every time Ice Blades hits a vulnerable enemy, it gains 25% attack speed up to 100%. Invoked. Killing a vulnerable enemy increases your active Ice Blade's duration by 1 second. Enchantment slot. Killing an enemy has a 10% chance to conjure Ice Blades. Hydra. Summon a 3-headed Hydra for 8.0 seconds. Each head spits fire at a nearby enemy, dealing 30% damage. Its lucky hit chance is 64%. Enhancement. Hydras last for an additional 4 seconds. Upgrades. Summoned. Hydra also burns enemies for an additional 12% of its base damage dealt over 6 seconds. Invoked. After you critically strike, Hydras gain 15% attack speed for 3 seconds. Its enchantment slot effect is when a burning enemy is killed, a Hydra head spawns from its corpse for 3 seconds. Lightning Spear. Conjure a crackling spear of lightning that seeks out enemies for 6.0 seconds, dealing 15% damage per enemy hit. Cooldown is 19.6 seconds. Lucky hit is 36%. Enhancement. Lightning Spear has a 10% increased chance to critically strike against stunned enemies. Upgrades. Summoned. Collecting crackling energy reduces the cooldown of Lightning Spear by 0.5 seconds. Invoked. After critically striking, Lightning Spear has a 5% increased stacking critical strike chance for its duration. Its enchantment slot effect. Absorbing crackling energy has a 10% chance to conjure a Lightning Spear. Precision Magic. Your lucky hit chance is increased by up to 5%. Align the elements. You gain 5% damage reduction against elites for each second you don't take damage from any of these sources, up to 50%. Mana Shield. Every time you spend 100 mana, you gain 5% damage reduction for 5 seconds. Protection. Using a cooldown grants 10% of your maximum life as barrier for 5 seconds. Conjuration. While you have an active Conjuration skill, you deal times 2% increased damage. Now let's get into some of the mastery skills. Mastery skills allow the sorcerer to master the elements, dealing massive damage with devastating AoE attacks. Like core skills, these can sometimes be build-defining skills, and will almost always find a way onto your skill bar or into an enchantment slot. Blizzard. Summon a frigid blizzard that deals 120% damage and continuously chills enemies for 18% over 6 seconds. Its lucky hit chance is 34%. Enhancement. Blizzard's duration is increased by 2 seconds. Upgrades. Mages. Every second an enemy is in Blizzard, they take times 2.5% increased damage from you, up to times 20%. Wizards. While you have an active Blizzard, your core skills cost 10% less mana. Its enchantment slot effect. Every 15 seconds, a blizzard forms over you and follows you for 4 seconds. Meteor. Summon a meteor that strikes the target location, dealing 50% damage and burning the ground for 35% damage over 3 seconds. Its lucky hit chance is 41%. Enhancement. If meteor hits 3 or more enemies, there's a 30% chance an additional meteor falls on the same location. Upgrades. Mages. Meteor falls 30% faster and costs 6 less mana. Wizards. Meteor's impact immobilizes enemies for 2 seconds. Its enchantment slot effect. Every time an enemy takes burning damage, there's a 3% chance a meteor falls on them. Firewall. Create a wall of flames that burns enemies for 160% over 8 seconds. Lucky hit chance is 41%. Enhancement. Enemies that stand in Firewall for at least 2 seconds take times 25% increased burning damage from all sources. Upgrades. Mages. Each enemy standing in Firewall increases your mana regeneration by 5%. Wizards. You deal times 5% increased damage per active Firewall. Its enchantment slot effect. Lucky hit. Direct damage has up to a 15% chance to spawn a Fireball for 3 seconds. Ball Lightning. Conjure a ball of lightning that slowly moves forward, continuously zapping enemies for 15% damage. Its lucky hit chance is 20%. Enhancement. Ball Lightning deals damage 30% more frequently. Upgrades. Mages. Each time Ball Lightning hits an enemy, it deals times 2% increased damage, up to times 30%. Wizards. If an enemy is hit at least 4 times by a cast of Ball Lightning, a crackling energy is formed. Its enchantment slot effect. When crackling energy would form, there's a 10% chance Ball Lightning is formed instead. Inner Flames. Your pyromancy skills deal times 8% increased damage after you haven't taken damage for 3 seconds. Devouring Flames. Your pyromancy skills deal times 1% increased direct damage for each source of burning on an enemy, stacking up to 4 times. Soulfire. Fireball and Meteor have a 1.5% increased chance to critically strike per enemy hit. Regenerative. Crackling energy restores 4 mana upon pickup. Static Discharge. Lucky hit. Critical strikes with shock skills have a 5% chance to form a crackling energy. Shocking Impact. Every time you stun an enemy, you deal 15% lightning damage to them. Icy Veil. Your barriers have 5% increased duration. Cold Front. While you have a barrier active, you apply 8% more chill. Hoarfrost. You deal more damage to enemies the more chilled they are, up to times 6% while they are frozen. All right, now let's talk about ultimates. Ultimates are high impact skills with a long cooldown that need extra supporting items and skills to be effective, so not every build runs one of them. Unlike other skills, you can only take one ultimate skill, so choose wisely. Deep Freeze. Encase yourself in ice, becoming immune for 4 seconds, continually chilling enemies for 20%. When Deep Freeze ends, frozen enemies shatter for 200%. Casting Deep Freeze again ends the effect early. Its cooldown is 58.8 seconds, and its lucky hit chance is 46%. Enhancement. Gain 5% of your base life as barrier for 6 seconds for each enemy shattered by Deep Freeze. Its second enhancement. When Deep Freeze ends, your non-ultimate cooldowns are reduced by 50%. Inferno. Ignite a roaring inferno that pulses in and out of the target area, burning enemies for 295% damage over 8 seconds, and then explodes, dealing 50% damage to enemies on the outer edge. Its cooldown is 44.1 seconds, and its lucky hit chance is 38%. Its first enhancement. Enemies inside of Inferno's final explosion are immobilized for 8 seconds. Its second enhancement. Killing a burning enemy reduces Inferno's cooldown by 1 second. Unstable Currents. Lightning surges within you for 10 seconds. Whenever you cast a lightning skill, another random non-basic lightning skill is also cast. Its cooldown is 68.6 seconds. Its first enhancement. Unstable Currents increases attack speed by 25% while active. Its second enhancement. While Unstable Currents is active, collecting crackling energy increases its duration by 0.25 seconds. Frostbite. You deal times 3% more damage to frozen or vulnerable enemies, and times 6% more damage to enemies who are both frozen and vulnerable. Permafrost. Frost skills deal times 5% increased damage to elites. Icy Touch. You deal times 4% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Snap Freeze. Lucky Hit. Frost skills have up to a 3% chance to instantly freeze. Immolated Flesh. Burning enemies deal 4.5% reduced damage. Fiery Surge. Killing a burning enemy grants 3% attack speed for 3 seconds. Endless Pyre. Burning effects last 6% longer. Pyromania. You deal times 3% increased critical strike damage per nearby burning enemy, up to times 50%. Coursing Currents. Hitting enemies with shock skills increases your critical strike chance by 1%. Resets upon getting a critical strike. Electrocution. Enemies deal 5% less damage for 5 seconds after being critically struck by your shock skills. Conduction. Critical strikes with shock skills increase your attack speed by 5% for 2 seconds. Convulsions. Lucky Hit. Shock skills have up to a 3% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds. Ultimate Passives. These passives are located at the very bottom of the skill tree, and we couldn't try them out in the press preview version, but we were able to hover over them in the skill tree and see that they're extremely powerful and could define the overall playstyle of your build. Similar to ultimate skills, only one of them can be chosen, so choose wisely. Icefall. Lucky Hit. Your frost spells have up to a 10% chance to make your next ice shards, frozen orb, or blizzard consume no mana and deal times 40% more damage. This chance is doubled against vulnerable enemies. Shatter. After freeze expires, enemies explode for 25% of the damage you dealt to them while they were frozen. Overflowing. Crackling energy hits one additional enemy. Each time crackling energy hits an enemy, your shock skill cooldowns are reduced by 0.1 seconds, increased to 0.25 seconds against elites. Veer's Mastery. Close enemies take times 10% more damage from your shock skills and deal times 20% less damage to you. Warmth. Lucky Hit. Up to a 50% chance to gain 1 mana per source of burning on the enemy. Esu's Ferocity. You deal times 25% increased burning damage to enemies over 50% life, and times 20% increased pyromancy skill direct damage to enemies under 50% life. All right, with skills out of the way, let's talk about the unique class mechanic, Enchantment Slots. Enchantment Slots are a small but powerful addition to your build that are only available to the Sorcerer class. We slot certain skills for their offensive, defensive, resource, or utility effects. They can bolster your build or extend its functionality. First, let's go over a couple of mechanics. So first of all, skills must have at least 1 skill point in them to be used in an enchantment slot. And you can get that skill point from the skill tree or through gear. You can use a skill on your action bar, and you can also use that same skill in the enchantment slot at the same time. A skill's ranks, enhanced, and upgrade choices carry through when placed into an enchantment slot. So it's worth it to invest extra points into whatever skill you put in that enchantment slot. Now, your choices can also be swapped in and out of enchantment slots at any time. So don't feel like you're stuck refunding your build or paying an expensive cost to do so. Now, the first slot unlocks at level 15 relatively early in the game, and the second also relatively early at level 30. Let's give a couple of examples here. So, Arclash, right? So, Arclash slot effect makes it so that whenever you're hit, there's a 20% chance that attackers are stunned for 1 second. So, this is a good defensive use case where you're CCing all of the enemies around you. With the upgrade, Glittering Arclash, hitting a stunned enemy with Arclash reduces your cooldowns by 0.25 seconds. The upgrade turns this defensive effect also into a utility effect as well. Using Arclash as a skill and in one of your enchantment slots can significantly reduce your cooldowns by a ton. Let's talk about another example, Ice Armor. So Ice Armor's slot effect states that when you get hit, you have a 5% chance to apply Ice Armor. This is another defensive effect. It's simple enough, right? But if you add Enhanced Ice Armor, this increases your mana regeneration by 25% when active. Lastly, taking the upgrade Shimmering Ice Armor, enemies that hit you while Ice Armor is active have a 15% chance to be frozen for 3.33 seconds. Ramp up Ice Armor's additional utility. This is especially true when used as a skill and when it's used in your enchantment slots as well. Now, one of my favorites is Meteors. So Meteor's enchantment slot effect is that every time an enemy takes burning damage, there's a 3% chance a meteor falls on them. This is a fantastic offensive effect. The Enchanted Meteor gives meteors that hit 3 or more enemies a 30% chance for an additional meteor at that same location. So this additionally extends Meteor's functionality, allowing for meteors to just continually fall all over the place. Now, lastly, Wizard's Meteor immobilizes enemy for 2 seconds on impact. So this combines a strong offensive base and enchanted effect with a decent crowd control component upgrade. What's impressive about this enchantment slot is that you don't even have to have Meteor on your skill bar to benefit from the free meteors you get when applying burning to your enemies. Let's talk about the Sorcerer's attributes. The 4 core attributes provide the following to the Sorcerer. Strength gives 1 armor each. Intelligence gives all resistances 5% per 100 and skill damage 10% per 100. Willpower gives resource generation 10% per 100 and healing received 10% per 100 and overpower damage 25% per 100. And dexterity finally gives critical strike chance 2% per 100 and dodge chance 2.5% per 100. Intelligence here is considered the main attribute of Sorcerer, as it multiplies all of your damage done. Dexterity and willpower are also useful for their offensive and defensive bonuses, while strength does next to nothing. In addition, you may find hidden altars of Lilith in the open world that unlock a permanent bonus for all of your characters. All right, let's talk about legendary aspects. Legendary aspects offer another important avenue of build customization. They can either be found as a legendary item drop or imprinted on a rare item at the occultist. Aspects with dynamic values are plus 100% effective on two-handed weapons and plus 50% effective on amulets. One of the most common ways to apply legendary aspects is through the Codex of Power. Now, the Codex of Power is a collection of special legendary powers that the occultist can freely craft on any rare or legendary item for a cost. You get these from a dungeon. So each power has to be unlocked by completing the specific dungeon once and always come with their minimum value if they have a dynamic value. As of right now, most maximum values are unknown, and we've left them out from this list. Certain effects with flat damage, life, or barrier values scale with the character level or the item power. So we also don't know those maximum values as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the currently known Codex of Power's abilities for the Sorcerer. Biting Cold. When you freeze an enemy, there's a 25% chance that they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. Charged. Collecting Crackling Energy increases your movement speed by 10% for 4 seconds. Conflagration. While channeling Incinerate, your burning damage is increased by times 20%. Control. You deal 30% more damage to immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies. Efficiency. Casting a basic skill reduces the mana cost of your next core skill by 10%. Elementalists. Core or mastery skills cast at or above 100 mana gain a 20.0% increased critical strike chance. Flamewalkers. Coming in contact with your firewall grants you plus 15% movement speed for 4 seconds. Incendiary. Killing a burning enemy grants 5% mana cost reduction for 4 seconds, up to 15%. Piercing Cold. Ice shards pierce 4 times, dealing 20% less damage per subsequent enemy hit. Prodigies. Casting an ultimate skill restores 80 mana. Recharging. Each time Chain Lightning bounces off you, gain 4 mana. Rolling Thunder. Charged bolts pierce, but deal times 30% less damage. Seared Flesh. Every 5 times you deal direct fire damage to an enemy, they are immobilized for 2 seconds. Snow Guards. While within your own blizzard, you take 10% less damage. Snow Veiled. Casting ice armor makes you unstoppable for 2.0 seconds. Splintering Energy. Lightning Spear has an 11% chance to spawn an additional Lightning Spear when you cast it. Storm Swell. You deal times 11% increased damage to vulnerable enemies while you have a barrier. Bounding Conduit. Gain 20% movement speed for 3 seconds after teleporting. Unwavering. Taking direct damage has a 5% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. 3 Curses. Meteor deals times 35% increased critical strike damage against healthy targets. Now, in the press preview version of Diablo 4, we were able to find one unique item for the Sorcerer, and this is pretty cool. It's called Flame Scar. This is an amulet, and its unique effect is while channeling Incinerate, you periodically shoot embers that are attracted to enemies, dealing 469 fire damage. Its stats are plus 20% damage to healthy enemies, and it has Lucky Hit up to plus 10% chance to stun, plus 5.3% dodge chance, and plus 11% damage. The burn may heal, but the pain is eternal. All right, that covers everything we know about the Sorcerer so far in Diablo 4. Is the Sorcerer your class of choice? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.